All right. So this is the second time I'm actually making this presentation. And the first time I made it, it appears the recording was not nice. So that's why I'm actually making it again, such that we can we can be able to record it so that people can use it the next time. So that is why this presentation is actually abrupt because of that. So most of you are stuck at the starting point, which is basically writing the introduction. The introduction is not supposed to be very difficult to write, but of course, it comes with experience. With time, you will get to know how to be able to write it. When we talk about the research introduction, it's just like the illustration that we have there. The introduction is the gate to your entire research. And therefore, for the person to read this introduction, you should captivate them. This is to say that you should make them interested in your work. So that means that you should write your introduction to capture the imagination or to capture the attention of the reader. Need to capture the attention of the reader. And that is why we have that gate as the illustration for writing the introduction chapter. If it is not well written, no one will waste their time to read the entire research article. Okay, so that is the basis. So, what are the principles of writing a good introduction? The good introduction should have the four elements or the four principles. One is that it should state what is known. It should also state what is unknown. And then it should also state the hypothesis or research question and briefly on the methodologies that you're going to use to study the research question. Okay? So those things should be there. In your introduction as informal paragraphs, of course. So there are models of writing an introduction. And we are going to choose one of these. The first one is the problem-solving model, which is basically about identifying a research problem and then addressing the solution and the criteria for evaluation. Okay, so this is basically to say that there is a research problem that you have, and then you are going to describe the solution to the research problem and how performance evaluation can be done. That is the criteria for evaluation. That's the first model. The second model is what we call the CARS model, which is basically about creating a research space. And this is the one we are going to focus on, creating a research space. This one has steps, of course. The first one is about establishing the territory, followed by establishing a niche, and then occupying the niche. So we're going to look at what each of those means. So let us start with establishing a niche. I mean a territory. If you study biology, we have they are animals that mark their territories. Okay, they are animals that mark their territories. How do they do that? Of course, some of them urinate around their territory. So within that territory, you can have uh, other organisms living within that territory. So that means that within the territory, you have niches within it. So in the context of research, when we talk about the territory, establishing a territory, we are basically saying that there is that wider area of research that you're focusing on. So you're basically going to write around it. If you're going to do if you're going to do immunization, for example, the factors that um, influence the utilization of immunization services, that is your topic. Now, your territory is basically is the immunization in general. Okay, so your first part of your introduction is going to talk about immunization in general. So immunization is an intervention where children under the age of this are given vaccines. These vaccines can be containing live organisms or weakened organisms. The vaccines or immunization prevents the following conditions: ABCD. That's the territory. That's the territory. Now you move now. After that, you now move to the niche that we shall look at later. So, under establishing the territory, you are talking in general terms, but in relation to the area of research. So it is basically a brief and relevant literature around the topic. That's what establishing the territory is. And that is basically your first paragraph. So this is also a paragraph on establishing a territory. It's about air pollution and how it results into an increased risk for respiratory conditions such as asthma, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, and respiratory infections. So if you read this past part, air pollution is a major environmental concern worldwide, affecting millions of people, leading to respiratory problems. That is, you're bringing the whole topic about air pollution. And then the next sentence is that studies have shown that exposure to air pollution or air pollutants such as particulate matter, nitrogen dioxide is linked to an increase in an increased risk of respiratory diseases, including asthma, COPD, and respiratory infection. Okay. Now, despite extensive research, we still need to investigate the specific mechanism through which, now this part here, the red one, you're now starting to narrow down the broader topic that you have in establishing the territory. So what is the niche? Now the niche now is the one which narrows it down. The niche is the subtopic within your major topic, narrowing the problem. So what is the exact problem related to immunization? Now that is when now you say that the next paragraph now starts to say, even though immunization is known as one of the interventions to prevent immunizable diseases such as ABCD, the uptake is still low. That is now the problem. the uptake is still low. And then now that's when you go and illustrate how the uptake is actually low. Okay? So globally, this number of people are not immunized. In sub-Saharan Africa, the percentage of people who are not immunized are these. In East Africa are these. In South Sudan are these. So you're basically now describing the real problem that is in establishing the niche. So in establishing the niche, you state the problem, you provide data to back up that problem, and then start to say or to tell us what the current situation is. What interventions are being done to make sure that actually this problem is solved. And then you tell us however much there are efforts to increase the uptake of immunization, the situation still remains alarming because some areas are not accessible, or some cultures are against immunization. Okay? Or that maybe in some cases the vaccines are not effective, or whatever it is. So you tell us what is happening and what are the gaps with what is happening. So that is the niche. You are narrowing down the problem to your research topic. So this is where we have it here. Okay? I think this work is a little bit disorganized here, but let me hope it is okay there. So this red part, and then this part, stating how big the problem is at the global stage, and then you narrow it down to the regional figures and then to the national figures, and then stating the gaps within and what really needs to be done. After stating the gap, now you need to state what needs to be done. And what needs to be done is basically what your research is intending to fill. That is about that. Okay, so we move to slide number 8. So after establishing the niche, you need to occupy the niche. This is now where you now need to say, this is what I'm going to do to solve the gap, or to fill the gap, or to solve the problem. So your research, your introduction should have that element that you see. I've identified that this space here, and this is what I'm going to do within this space. That is occupying the niche, which is the last part of the model that we have. Remember, we said that your introduction can be written following one, following establishing the territory. 2, establishing the niche. 3, occupying the niche. Occupying the niche is where you now categorically state why your research is very important in solving the problem. So occupying the niche, this is where now it comes in, especially here. This study will provide insight into individual vulnerabilities to air pollution and inform policies and interventions to protect vulnerable populations and reduce the burden of respiratory diseases. So this here is now this is where you're saying this is the seat that I'm going to sit in. This is where I'm going to this is where my research is going to be very helpful. So never write a research introduction and you don't state this as your last statement. How your research is going to bridge the gap. Furthermore, here, this is the illustration here now. that you see there are three main phrases or phases of writing the introduction: establishing the territory, establishing the niche, and then occupying the niche. Okay, what this basically means is that you start with the main research area, which can be immunization, which can be pollution. You state the general information about that. Say immunization is a public health intervention that is aimed at making sure that people don't get some communicable diseases. Around the world, different countries are implementing different immunization strategies. Commonly, the diseases that are immunizable include A, B, C, D. That's general information. That's general information that is in your introduction part. And then you go now to the next phase, which is basically the general research question. Okay, what are you interested in that topic of research? This is when you now go to say and to state that you see, even with the global efforts to make sure that now every child receives the vaccines, or every village receives the vaccines that they want, still uptake is still low. The factors that will cause this or that lead to this are not established. And this is why you actually need to do the research to establish some of these in your context, whether in your research area or where you're going to conduct the research from. Okay, so you move from general information to more specific. So you're narrowing down the problem of immunization down to what is happening in your area. Say in my area, this is happening, and this is the gap, and this is what needs to be done, and this is what research is going to do. That is about this inverted pyramid. So basically, this is what we have. If you're going to write an introduction, you tell us the general picture, which is the big one. Write what is known and what is unknown. State the research question, and then how you're going to investigate it. Length. How long should the introduction be? It can vary, but at least 1 or 1.5 is okay. Some people can write up to 2. For advanced studies, they can write 3 to 5 pages. What I expect of you is at 1.5. If you have gone an extra mile, in that is 2 pages. Okay. Usually, the introduction is less than 10 to 15% of the entire research paper. So that means that I don't expect you to write a very long introduction. So key things that you need to know is that use simple sentences, don't complicate work. If you're going to use abbreviations, for the first time, put them in bracket, and then you can use them later. Make sure that you reference. Your references should not be too old. Don't write references 10 years ago, or more than 10 years ago. Why? Okay. Of course, for the whole introduction chapter, you will clearly state your hypothesis, your aims, the objectives of the research, and things like that. So that is what I wanted to go through with you very quickly.